Hello and welcome to episode 110 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me, as usual, is Mr. Neil.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Neil. You might hear the paint pots opening and shutting a little bit faster in this episode, yeah?
Yeah, I might be ignoring you for a lot of it.
Yeah, you might have even more distant Neil. We are recording this, a couple of nights before we fly out to Adepticon. And Neil, it's fair to say you're a little behind on your hoped-for schedule.
I am. I've got this very tight schedule I've written up for myself, and I'm teetering on the edge at the moment of trying to get everything done in time.
It's all part of the fun. That's what It
is.
That's what people say. And it's kind of everything, isn't it? I mean, we have talked. There is possibility maybe of doing a little bit over there, but you haven't got your setup then, have you? You haven't got everything you do. So it's a few late nights.
Yeah, it's debating whether or not because I was thinking of taking some paints and some brushes and stuff. And then I was like, well, if I take my paints and brushes, I need my light. And if I take my light, I might, and then you start ticking all the things off you need. I know it's not huge amounts of stuff, but it's enough to make you think, oh, yeah, actually, that's a lot of work.
I think their paint areas have got lights set up. The paint.
What, like good ones?
Yeah. Well, this is people like James Wapple and they go and set that area up, and it's like their area. So, yeah, I think they've got like the smaller versions, almost like the travel versions of what we have, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's pretty. They take it pretty seriously, that hobby area out there. As I say, people
that's quite cool.
Talk later on. People do kind of spend 4 days there. Sometimes it's just people are just chatting, painting and stuff. So and at the end of the day, if there is a little bit that you desperately know you need to do, then that's a possible option. And of course, that a few of the people out there doing some of the seminars. I'm sure there'll be a space somewhere or somewhen to jump in a room and just maybe do that one little bit.
Always try and borrow a bit of equipment, I suppose, if I need to.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you don't plan for it, but if desperation calls, there's an opportunity there. But before we do all that, let's talk Element Games. There's there's all the stuff that's coming out from GW at the moment. We're going to have a GW preview Wednesday night, Thursday morning for people this side of the pond, and I'm sure they'll announce all the new cool stuff. Forge World doesn't really get mentioned in those ones, but if you're into other game systems. But of course, now that Book 8's here, Demons of the Ruinstorm are a thing, and groups popping up on Facebook and all the usual kind of things that go along with it. And frankly, the easiest way to get a lot of your demons at the moment is through the GW Demon line. Particularly if you want to go God specific. I've seen some brilliant ideas for conversions as well. The Age of Sigmar, I can't remember what they're called, which is terrible. Marathi's lot, the kind of perverted Slaneshi eaten elves, so snake women and things like that, converted with demon parts, looking amazing as well. So you can go to Element and you can get all that jazz, and
all the stuff you need.
Yes, and all the stuff you need to do it as well. All the paints you need for last minute competition painting.
Yes, all the paints.
And as we talk later in the show to Kat and Caleb as well, we talk a bit about airbrushes later on. Harder and Steenbeck, if you are looking at one of those and you don't want to wait for the CK Studios one, or you just need parts for your Harder Steenbeck, then they do stock all that as well. So that's another good place you can get a load of airbrush supplies. Wonderful. My prep for Adepticon, might as well, seeing as you've done your little bit of prep, my prep has mainly been going, I don't want to take my Mechanicum in a plane again. There's too many little spiky bits. I didn't quite get, having read the rules, I can't take an all Custodes force for the Centurion, which is understandable. And the original plan wasn't to do that. But I thought maybe I can just, take a sensible one for it, but I can't. So it's a case of make a couple of inquiries, and I'm borrowing an army. So massive thank you to John Christensen for lending me some. I'll be playing some Ultramarines, so I've got to do some swatting up on the Ultramarines rules, which I know a little bit of. A couple of mates play it, and writing lists with someone else's like collection of models and stuff, and having some fun with it as well, because I kind of got the idea, and I was like, I haven't played like Legion stuff for a while. I want to use this, and I want to. Have you got any of this? It's like, oh, you got some of that, but not quite. Okay, cool. No, I can work with that. Yeah, no, that's it wasn't my original idea, but using your models, I can do this and do that. And the Zone Mortalis that I'm taking part in, they want 2 lists, and it seems to be like the last time I went a couple of years ago, where they embraced the fact that Zone Mortalis doesn't have to be the ship or the confined space Zone Mortalis. It's just areas where it's dangerous. So there's one that one of the lists, they basically tell you that you want units that can move around the board, because and they basically say if you're going to bring artillery, it might not be very effective. So taking the opportunity to write, it's only little 500 point lists to play around with different stuff, and they've written some of their own rules as well for being able to do that. So that's been quite fun actually this afternoon, evening, sat in front of the TV trying to play around with some different lists and use things that I wouldn't normally use as well because of the low points levels and things like that. So we'll
it's
see.
Almost a bit of a new challenge, isn't it? Taking someone else's models and then writing a list, and then also like you said, swatting up on a few of those. A few of those armies. Then suddenly going, oh yeah, they got this rule and that rule. It's quite a journey of discovery, isn't it? That you've got to try and do quite quickly. Yeah,
definitely. And looking through like the lists of models, particularly HQs, it's got a certain way. Just from looking at, and this is the stuff he's not using, I think. So he's probably got models that I would use, but he's using them, and that's obviously, of course, that's fine, But I'm looking at the rest of it, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of vehicles which I can't use in Centurion or Zone Mortalis. That's fine, and there's some characters which support those vehicles as well, so I can't use them. And okay, well, actually, a Praetor doesn't have to be a Praetor. It's a model, armed a certain way. Cool. Let's have a little look back at like the Legion Champion rules, or he's got a Delegatus. Let's have a look at the Delegatus again, because it's been a while since I looked at those rules. So yeah, we'll see. I don't expect to do brilliantly well with any of it, and I've just taken some stuff that I've just like, I just want to use these things, push it forwards. And
is there anything in the new book that you can use to talk stuff up with, or is that still a bit too experimental?
I think they just missed the deadline. So basically, they're using the FAQ, but not the new book, as far as I'm aware. Now, I may have got that completely wrong. If I have, I'm hamstringing myself. So, and to be honest, I haven't had. So we're recording this just before we fly out. 2 days ago, I got a copy of the Solar War through, and essentially, I got enough time to read that and not read any of Book 8. And neither of those books is coming on a plane with me. It's not happening. I'm not risking it. So it was a case of, right, I'm reading the Solar War. I managed to finish that, and I've flicked through Book 8 so far, mainly at the Demons of the Ruinstorm section. I haven't even started on the background yet, because I know that I want to sit down and absorb it. So
yeah, I must admit, I'm terrible for reading them, as you know, and I was then, the book arrived and I was like, oh yes, brilliant. And I remember just flicking open looking at a few of the colour plates and then closing it down. Right, back to painting.
Yeah, it's there's a lot in there, and the fact it covers 2 different campaigns and things like that as well means it feels like a chunky book. I haven't even looked at it compared to the others. It's on a separate shelf because we had some kids over. Don't have any kids myself, and then we had like three kids under 9 over, and I was like, I can lock my room, but I was reading that book's going safe somewhere. It's going away from kids. They are not touching it. I've looked through the Demons of the Ruinstorm army list, because I've got a load of demons to rebase, and that looks great and that looks fun. I've had a little quick flick through some of the characters and stuff, and the rules for the Khan and what have you, but I haven't got enough time to sit down and do it justice. So that will have to wait till after Adepticon. But that's cool. That's something to look forward to when I get home.
Definitely.
It looks very good though. I mean, I had a flick through, as I say, various bits. There's a couple of bits which need clarifying. I've seen again, people collecting. I've seen two different ways of people collecting this information on Facebook. There's the people who are like, okay, so this has been written, and it's little things like. So I think it's the greater demons, Lords of the Ruinstorm. It's the big demons. You can give psychic levels to, if you take the right things and blah blah blah, and that's sensible. And it's 35 points a level, I'm sure, but it doesn't say up to a maximum. So essentially, you could just keep paying 35 points for an extra die. Obviously, that's just an error. That's a small mistake, and there's people going. And there's the people who are like, oh, they're doing it again. And then there's people who are like, oh, no, we just need to resolve this and let them know. No company in the world, no gaming company in the world releases a book that big and doesn't have errors in it. It just doesn't happen. And I know the rules is only a bit at the back and what have you, but it happens because humans, basically. And it's very hard, even with proofreaders, they will miss bits and pieces. But as writers, it's very hard when you know what you mean, not to have your brain filling any gaps that may be there, and things like that.
There's also the element that the rules not are only just relating to something in that book, they're then cross-referenced back to other publications, so that you could write something, and in that book, yes, that makes perfect sense, and that seems really reasonable. But you combine it with something, say, out of the main rule book or out of another book, and then you go, but that can now do this, and then that's that's a whole nother level of problem you've got to get your head around.
And sometimes thinking about the harder things means you miss the simpler things. So I believe that the Khan's rules, or the right of war for the White Scars, means the Khan can't join. It's something stupid like, I haven't even looked at it properly yet. Essentially, people are saying the Khan can't join units in his right of war, and it doesn't work for the right of war because his jet bike's different. Because I've literally skimmed over it, I haven't looked into it, but it's almost kind of obvious that you should be able to use all the White Scar stuff in the White Scars right of war. It's kind of obvious that there should be a limit somewhere on how many psychic levels. At some point it becomes pointless giving them extra psychic levels anyway. But there should be a limit.
Yeah, but you somewhere. Can't. There won't be a thing of he's a level 20.
Yeah, because I want these extra 20 dice, and although there's only 6 spells in the discipline, I've got 20 dice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think there's and some people are very literal and their brains work that way, and and I understand that, and some people will read the rule and be like, well, that's the way it's played, and I can do this, I can't do this, those are my limits. I think
there is a limit of some people that they're looking for these things as well, to say what can I do that's going to be massively upset everyone, and look, I can now do this, that's going to really
and some people
annoy people,
and some people want to pick holes in Forge World. Even some people love to kind of look down on the things they enjoy. They want to pick holes in the things that they spend all their time doing. I don't really understand it, but we'll point stuff out when we think it's wrong, but I won't go looking for it. Some people do that, but when you see people post up and saying, well, currently this can't happen, and you're sitting there thinking, but on almost every table I've ever played on, they will let you do it, right? And that's the break point. And if you meet that person who won't let you do it, if that's in your gaming club, then you sit down and have a word and say, come on, mate. And if they're like that all the time and not letting you use your army the way it should be used, then I wouldn't play them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know, again there are groups out there with less players, and that becomes more difficult. But sometimes that's the only way people learn. I can't get a game at the club. Well, let's sit down and discuss why that is. And sometimes sometimes you have to do that kind of thing. I'm one of those people. Not in this case, but I'm one of those people sometimes that has to learn the hard way. I have to make a mistake, and I make plenty. But sometimes I have to learn the hard way, and there are plenty of people like that out there as well. So, yeah, just because the rules do or don't let you do something, there's usually a spirit which is pretty obvious. And in fact, the heresy in itself, the whole of the Horus Heresy, set up the game system is all set on that premise that, have a chat about it. If there's something that doesn't quite work, but you want to do it, and your opponents are cool with it, then you do it, Or if there's something which looks obviously wrong, then you change it. I mean, we've got community FAQs as well, if you want to go and look at those. If you do need more of an official, in quotation marks, kind of agreed upon terms and decisions, then go and find one of the many variations of those Q&As, and I'll be updating ours at some point. I based ours off of the original, the Swedish guys doing theirs. I think there were just a couple of things that they did that I was the other side of the fence on, so took it and made sure that it was a document that I believe is the way I would want to play the game.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to agree with me on every point. That's cool. That's fine. And in fact, if you come to my events and both players at a table think I've got something wrong and they play it another way, it doesn't really matter. The reason I've got that document is that if one person thinks it's played one way and another person thinks it's played a completely different way, I can go, well, at this event, if you can't decide, it's played this way. Just so people can get on with their games. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. But Book 8 in itself, there's going to be some small glitches, as I say, but it looks gorgeous. So much cool stuff. And we'll get around to it.
It's a great looking book. I must admit, I was very pleased when it arrived.
Yes, and the shelf's growing now.
It felt like such a long time coming. I did read the little bit at the back where they were talking about, getting it written and all that sort of stuff, and the team, etc. So,
right, yeah,
that was
yeah.
But it's good. It's good to have it in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I need to rearrange my bookshelves a little bit to make them look a bit prettier. But that will go on with the rest of the big books I've got, and the Solar War needs to find space where I can then fit the other 8 books or other 7 books in for the rest of the Siege. Exciting stuff. And that Solar War book, I mean, talk about beautiful books. Most people have probably seen.
I must admit, I'm not one of the book collectors.
Yeah.
I don't. I remember I did see that on the website, and I did just go, "Wow, that looks amazing!"
Yeah.
If there was one that could have tempted me into buying a set, that was one. And then when I saw that they literally sold out straight away, I was like, "Well, that stops me from buying that."
Yeah, and I know it's a touchy subject for some people, so I do apologise if you wanted one and didn't manage to get it. Just for a small update, they've got a handful left that they're going to be selling off in April, I think, or May. No, in May when the normal edition comes out. They have got a few that were where the computer went wrong or whatever. They've got a few left at GW. I know they're taking a very small number to Adepticon. This would be too late by now. They'll all be sold by the time this is released. The good thing is, well, I say the good thing is, the Black Library for the releases in the Siege of Terror anyway, moving forwards, it will be limited to 1 per account. That's not going to stop people buying more than 1 if they really, really want to, but it is going to make it a little bit more difficult, and fingers crossed we'll give everyone else...
How many was the most that someone bought?
15 is the most I know of. Sold on eBay.
Blimey.
15 of them. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because that's just pure unadulterated scalping, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I mean, buying 2 or 3, you can say, "Oh, well, I bought an extra one for a friend."
And and I almost can't get too angry, right? Because that's the way the person decides they might want to make money. I don't agree with it. I think it's a douche thing to do, but it's not their fault. The Black Library let them do it, and there's no point me sitting here getting angry at that person. It's happened. It's gone. And again, people will get more than one copy because I have multiple accounts and do whatever. But I think it will make it hard to get 15 of them. The only problem is, for some reason, they're moving it off Black Library's website to do this, whether it's just not set up properly for it. They're moving it onto Games Workshop, which means some people are going to have to pay more for shipping and things like that, which is a bit annoying, bit frustrating for them. But because but you do it. If you're really a collector, you do it. Someone said to me, they were like, I posted up before Black Library made the announcement of reducing it, limiting it to one per account. I posted up, on Twitter or something, a photo of it, and like, this isn't good enough. And we were getting ready to write a letter that people could then take and adapt and send in. And then the announcement came out, so we didn't need it. But someone said to me, if people don't buy off the scalpers, they don't make the money. And it's like, well, there's a fundamental problem with that. I look at my shelf and I'm getting rid of almost all my other books. I'm happy to go ebook. I'm selling off some books that are worth some money. I'm not selling off the Heresy collection. It's, I've collected it for a long time now. It's what I want to collect. There are 54 books, hardback books, £20 a pop. I got some through Element, got some a little bit cheaper. Wish I'd bought more through Element. But that's 1,080 quid on hardback books. That's before you've purchased any of the limited editions, any of the CDs, any of the there's a couple of there's the Buried and the Unburdened and Honoured and Unburdened. Was it not in numbered sequence? So I spent a considerable amount of money on this collection. When you add in the Primarch series and then you add in the Heresy books that I've got from Forge World, if I have to pay £150 for the Solar War, I would have done it. Because I want that collection.
And do you know what? I think you're right. I think that there's an element that let's face it, the scalpers know that there will be some people out there that will that are desperate that desperate for it, that they will pay that money.
Yeah, everyone has their limit, and that's understandable. At the moment, I could afford to pay 150 quid or 200 quid for that book. Whether I would have paid it or not, I probably would have, to be fair. Yes, it sounds bad to say it, really, but I probably would have. And I know I'm part of that problem, but that's what happens when you're collecting something. You pay the price that it fetches, and as soon as a place sell out, GW sell out, then there's no control on the price, and the price is what people are willing to pay for it. Case in note, the Primarch's books, the first two, Guilliman and Russ, are like rocking horse manure, and there was a copy on eBay at £400 with one bid on it. Now, whether that's someone who genuinely wants it or someone who's trying to wind up a person or not, I've seen them sell for over 300. So, it happens, and people who are fanatical will pay those prices. One thing it's made certain of is, if I were to, walk out in the road tomorrow and get hit by a car, I've made sure that Emma knows who to contact to sell my books, because there's a lot of money sitting out there. Yeah. So, I'm like, some of the toys not too bad, but some of the books I've got are worth a fair whack. So, and that's actually something I've got to think about. I've got to probably review the house insurance and put the collections on there properly. So I don't think I think I've only like half covered it, really. I think they've got to be their own separate things. I don't know. We'll sort that out. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and hopefully moving forwards. The other thing as well is people were rightly disappointed with the way it was done. What we're seeing is they should have doubled the amount they printed and all this. Well, we don't actually know how many people wanted these books. They printed 2,500. Now, there might only have been
that
three.
sounds like quite a lot, doesn't it, for That's the most I think I've heard them print, or am I wrong?
It's generally what they print now on a limited run. However, the problem is when you look at, if you were to go Black Library now, and if I look at exclusives here, and you've got books that aren't, to be fair, they're not. Oh, there we go. Primarchs, Jagatai Khan, Warhawk of Chagorus, brilliant book. Angron, you can't get a hold of them now. Angron's gone completely. It doesn't even say only 500 left or anything like that. So there's quite a few Jagatai Khans left, and yet Angron sold out. So, like, how many did you print when you do the next Primarch book? Right, and I think they keep it to the same. I think it's 2,500 for them as well. Now, Black Library limited editions, the Heresy limited editions, the ones they used to do, they do sell out. However, I don't know how long they sell out, how long it takes them. I mean, look at Gaunt's Ghost here, a bit different because it was an 85 quid special edition. They've only not long gone to fewer than 1,000 copies left. They did 2,500 of those, I think. That's a lot of money sat on a shelf. So
yes, and it's warehouse space and all that.
So Black Library do 2,500 for this, and maybe for the previous limited editions, they've sold those in a week. I don't know, or a few days, and they're happy with that, and that's fine. This was the new start, the beginning of the end. You've probably got people who dropped out of the Heresy series jumping back in. You've got people who came along halfway through who were like, yeah, I'm not going to go back and read all those. Oh, no, it is the iconic story as well. So you've probably got new people who are like, well, I only care about this bit. And it was a gorgeous book, which helps, because some of the limited editions have been better than others, to be fair. And this is superb quality. But if only 3,000 people, I say only 3,000, if 3,000 people want to get onto Black Library and buy that book, then Black Library is probably not set up for 3,000 people jumping on that at the one time. Yeah? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd agree, actually. Yeah.
So 3,000 people, all of a sudden people go, there must be thousands more that want it. Well, actually, there might not be. There might be those 3,000. Bearing in mind, I know one scalper got 15, another got 12. Plenty of other people had books on eBay as well. You probably sold 100 odd to those people, minimum. I managed to get a second copy to take out to America for Carl to do that, because I knew that he'd be, he's 8 hours behind, and there was going to be a chance that it was all going to be gone before he had an opportunity to get it, unless he set an alarm for silly o'clock in the morning or what have you. So I took that opportunity, and that's gone. I can't do that again. Fine, that's the way they're going to do it. I completely understand that. But if they printed 5,000 copies and 3,200 people purchased them, and they're left with 1,800, then they've screwed up the other way. So
yes, yeah.
And then people have said, well, why don't you go back to the really old system where they had a week long? So Aaron Dembski-Bowden was the first author, I believe, to crash the Black Library website when Aurelian came out, which was the second limited edition book. And at that point, I almost stopped collecting the Heresy. I was going to buy them in the cheapest format, ebook probably. Well, probably wasn't out by then. But because the system crashed, they actually found they had a few more left to sell, and I got back into it, unfortunately. But so they moved, shortly after that, they moved for a short while to a system where they had a week-long pre-order, and then they sold that many limited editions. But that meant you ordered the book, then the author had to sign that many pieces of paper, and then it all had to get put together and sorted out. So you waited an age for your book, and that's not a good system either, because people get fed up of waiting. So what do you do? I don't think there's a way you can win. And if you say limited to 5,000, it's like, oh great, a real limited edition book, 2,500 still a decent number. It's like, where do you sit on this? I don't think there's a thing they can do to win, really. I think the step they've taken, and you know what? If I missed out, I'd have been absolutely peed off as well. And if I miss out on the next one, I'll be peed off. I'll do everything I can to make sure I'm there to get that book. I honestly believe this was the first book. The second book, there's always a little bit less demand. Partly just because people decide, actually, I don't want to collect. Partly because people missed out. So they're like, well, I haven't got the first one, so what's the point in getting the second one? So there's a little bit of that as well. So I'm sure it's still going to be fairly busy, to be fair, but it might be a little bit quieter. And it'll be interesting to see how it's done. But it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. I'm sure I talked with Michael a little bit. In fact, Michael wrote a bit on Track of Words about the system and everything that goes around it. I don't know. I don't see Black Library having this problem to the same level once the Heresy's done. They could have a real big problem with the final book. That could be even worse than this one. But I think once the Heresy's done, they'll have the regular issue they have with the odd limited edition, like Spear of the Emperor will sell like Billy O. But it'll be much more random. I mean, people say it might be based on author, but John French this time broke it. Aaron Dembski Bones' Black Legion series. The second book, I don't know if you can still get them. Actually, you might even be able to still purchase them on Black Library, and I was sure that was going to sell out in no time at all. In fact, a few of us were, and maybe you can't. But it hung around a while, so there doesn't always seem to be an easy way to judge it. And they're trying their best. Don't get me wrong, I've had my issues with Black Library for a little while on various things. I don't know if they're just changing stuff or whatever, but there seems to be a lot of different things going on. It's a bit mad, but I still think it's better than it used to be in terms of overall what they're doing. So, hey ho. We do what we can. So yeah,
at least you got your copy.
Yeah, I got my copy, so that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's a horrible thing to say, isn't it? But when if you don't get a copy, then you hate everyone, and I understand why. If you get your copy, well, I've got my copy. It's hey, but the books, the words inside are really good, no matter which copy you get. It is a fantastic book. It is quite. I don't want to give anything away. I'll be interested to see, like, for 7 books, what the stories are going to be told. There's, there was maybe a little bit more time covered in this one than I thought there would be. Maybe other people think it was, thought it was going to be exactly what it is. I don't know. It means there's lots of scope for storytelling coming. So I think John smashed it with that. And we know now as well, they put up a Warhammer community article, so we know there's 6 authors involved off the top of my head. So John, Guy, Aaron, Gav, Chris Raitt and Dan Abnett. And so 6 authors, 8 books. Guy's probably going to be writing 2 of those because Guy writes so quickly. I think Aaron's alluded that John writes fairly quickly, and bearing in mind he's done the first one, I could see him writing 2. Aaron won't be writing 2 because Aaron doesn't write very quickly. And Dan's probably going to be finishing it off. There's, but that's a nice set of authors for going through it all.
Yeah, you certainly can't complain at that set of authors. That's a great lineup.
Well, you say that. There are people out there who really don't like John's writing or Gav's writing or whoever's writing. That's always going to be the case. But I think when you look at the sales and everything that those guys have done, you can't argue. Personally, I have no problem with the authors they picked. People questioning why Graham McNeil's not in there is one thing I've seen. Graham's busy working full time for Riot. He mentioned in the interview we did with him, he's got a short coming out about the crew of the Sisypheum, so he's taking part in it. At some point they'll release that. I don't quite know what style or how they'll do that, but he can't write. He hasn't got the time to get a book out for the siege, as far as I'm aware. So that wasn't going to happen. And you look around the other authors, and I'm not surprised they picked those guys. And even if some of those authors aren't necessarily the ones that you like reading as much, I think, although the people who don't like those authors won't agree with me, I honestly believe objectively you can't really argue with the depth of knowledge of the heresy and the universe. Within that, and they're doing their meetings as well, and they're all being overlooked by an editorial team that's helping out in that respect as well. So, and this is Siege of Terror. There's been a bit written about it. There's still lots of holes to fill in, but there's lots of key moments. So it's not like they're going to ignore them or anything. They're gonna have to hit them, and it's how they hit them. There were moments in the Solar War where I was like, "Wow, these two characters are meeting already!" Like,
that stuff's accelerating faster than you thought it might.
This could be really interesting, and some really awesome moments, even with characters who their ultimate story, where you were like, hold on, what's going on with this guy? So that's always a good thing anyway. So yeah, that's all really exciting. And having talked about all that, we have got announcement finally that Book 8 is going to be on regular release.
Yay!
So pre-orders will have gone up by the time this has come out. Essentially, I know people were frustrated that it was going into people's hands. I think Forge World or someone had promised that people at the Weekender and LVO would get theirs first, so they have to make sure that those books got to those people first, because you can't say that and then not do it, and then have people purchasing it normally and getting those books. It would be really bad. So it's out. It's coming out. We've got Sanguinius coming with it as well. Hopefully, roll on all the Book 8 stuff, because it's what keeps the hobby alive, isn't it? It's just a bit of a shame we missed out on that date for Adepticon, but we've got plenty of events that will be fitting it in straight away, and people are already making lists up, and the Demons of the Ruinstorm is going to be a really interesting army list. People are saying there are ways to really push it. I don't know that as of yet. I haven't sat down and really looked through it. And in fact, because it's so different, I'd have to play with it a little bit to have a see.
I think, ultimately, whenever a new form of list comes out, you never really get to grips with it until it's been out on the table and you play a few games against it or with it,
well,
I think.
I think if they release Legion rules, so that I could sit down and look at the White Scars and the Blood Angels and read their rules and work out armies and have a basic understanding of how they would operate. Because I've seen Legions on the table, and effectively it's just a slight variation on what other Legions do. So you have a basis to balance it off. The Demons act so differently that I think I need to get down that and more play against it than play with it. I think I've seen people saying, "Oh yeah, I've destroyed my friend in this many turns and whatever," and I'm like, "But how did they play against you? You're limited on where you can come in a 5 or 6 or 7 turn game. You've got to come in around certain points, and you can't do anything that turn you come in. What armies are they using? What weapon choices are they using?" I think Demons are going to be to traitors what Custodes were to Loyalists, in that they are a more cost-effective, easier way to get into the heresy.
Yep.
Yes,
and so many people have Demons.
Exactly, and that's part of it. Yeah, and even if you don't, it's all plastic. You really don't have to worry about that kind of thing, and you don't have to too much worry about, oh well, this squad's been armed like this, so I can't do. You've got to represent within reason. There are the one thing that might slow some people down a little bit is there are types of demons that we don't have specific models from GW for already. So if you want to play Warhammer World, things like that, you'll have to get in and convert. There are plenty of other companies that make models that could be used. I've heard people talking about using all the ghost range to make a load of demons from the undead in Age of Sigmar. There's quite a lot. Cool. But even then, you've only got a limited amount of sized models, so going bigger than that, there are other options, but you've got to try and make it all fit together as well. But yeah, if you know, we got guys at the club who are like, well, I haven't played Heresy. I've moved away from Heresy, but I have got a demon army. I don't mind throwing it down every now and then if you want to play. So that should be quite good. But yeah, even looking at the fact that demons can choose to play a different game than you, they can choose to change their way of scoring a win, whether it's the Cornate one where it's about units destroyed or things like that. But there are so many different rules. I'm looking at the fact that we might see a lot of demons means weapons like Volkite come back into play more often. Heavy bolters, autocannons, these weapons which put out more hits with less AP. Because in general, even the humble rotor cannon, bless it, you don't see them because they don't do anything to Marines. But quantity of shots against an army with not a brilliant save, that's Bonza. And in fact,
it can make a big difference. That can.
Yeah, and we've been saying that with Mechanicum for a while. Heavy bolters, things like that. Like, people take the Leviathan. They don't always take the Volkite in the chest things. They take other stuff. Well, actually, the Volkite works really well against certain Mechanicum units. If we get more armies that those weapons work well against, then more people will take them in their generic lists. So we then start to see a bit of a change in the meta, for want of a better word. And that might, again, change the way that then Legion armies play against each other. In some ways, it might be quite nice to see weapons that don't necessarily just destroy infantry in one round, to see heavy squads with guns that aren't AP2, things like that. My Mechanicum would have to change in an environment where I'm playing demons more often. And that's a good thing.
Definitely.
The only kind of slight, it's not even a concern, but the only slight kind of thing is, are we going to start seeing a quarter of all traitor armies being Demons of the Ruinstorm? And I think there's potential early on for people to jump on it. But I think that'll fade and it'll balance out. But if that's the way someone wants to get into the Heresy easy, because that's the other thing it does is we don't have, the rule system is not easy to jump across. But if you can turn around to your mate who plays Age of Sigmar or who plays 40k and say, well, I mean, if you've ever wanted to try it, now you can try it without having to buy a model. You've got a complete army. Then that is one barrier broken down.
I think that's a massive selling point for it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that players could turn around and go, well, I've got some demons. I'll play with it. And then suddenly, it drags those people in because there's, the caliber, that's the sort of scene that we play in with the sort of more experienced gamer usually has had several armies, and it's a good chance that demons would have been one of them.
Yeah, and there's models always on eBay and all that kind of stuff as well. And on top of that, if you're sitting there with your friend and they're like, well, okay, I've seen someone who hasn't played any GW games. I've seen 40k played. I've seen Age of Sigmar played. Yeah, they're all right. Why would I want to learn Heresy when I know there's more people playing that? Well, okay. Well, if you like the look of demons, then you can buy them and try Heresy. And you know what? If you don't like it, you've still got an army for those other systems as well. So even people first time coming in, there's a very good kind of option for it being that army. So yeah, as I say, I can see it becoming at some events. I'm sure there's going to be, oh wow, there's a lot of demons here. That's not necessarily an issue. One thing it could actually balance up the fact that we've seen a lot of custodies at events, and I know some people might be worried that it unbalances the numbers turning up to events. It's not a problem for me because I've not been too worried about having loyalists play loyalists within reason, within the right circumstances, and traitors playing traitors if numbers are uneven. There's the rule book even has a paragraph about it, but it works quite well. And there's one set of the demons rules is actually useful. They're more powerful against demons and psykers, so it's almost written like they're good at taking down other demon armies. So if someone wants to bring something like that and go hunting other demon armies at my event, I might not give them 5 games against demons, but they certainly could have a couple. So that kind of thing becomes an option as well. But yeah, there's plenty of scope on that army, and that's to say I haven't really sat down and looked too much at the Blood Angels and the White Scars, which are also getting people excited. So it's all good, and the missions and loads of stuff. It's a jam-packed full black book, and it's coming, which is cool.
Yes,
I'm amazed we managed to talk that much about. Well, maybe I shouldn't be. We've waffled on quite a lot in the past, and we will do again, I'm sure. What we'll do is we'll take a break there, and we'll come back and talk to Kat and Caleb. Well, joining me once again, we have Kat and Caleb from CK Studios. Hello, guys.
Hi, how are you?
I'm grand.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm all good. How are you?
Good. So good to talk to you again.
Yeah. Well, and we'll be talking in the flesh, as it were, in the not very long.
Yeah.
So which will be
a few days away.
Yeah, indeed. Cannot wait. So you've got plenty of stuff going on. It's been a while since we talked. It's been a while trying to organise this interview, which is, the fun of time, different time zones and all that jazz. I think we should actually let's, just in case people aren't aware, they're newer listeners. What is CK Studios?
You want to grab that, Caleb?
Yeah. So CK Studios is a project, a
Collaboration.
team. A collaboration that Kat and I started. We're going on 3 years now, and mainly our focus seems to be the miniature painting education. We do a lot of traveling. We're doing a lot of classes. We teach all over the U.S., Canada, over into Europe, Denmark, UK. And we teach weekend airbrushing classes. We teach seminars at conventions. Where we have videos on Hobby Hangout. We're doing live feed on Facebook. And then just recently, and that's kind of why we want to get on and talk with you. I know we haven't been on in a while. But just recently we brought on new artists. So we brought on Sam Lentz of the Fantasy Art of Sam Lentz.
Sure. And
we have Vince Ventrilla of Hobby Cheats, and also Justin Kiefer from Independent Characters. So we've expanded our team. We're getting quite larger. We've just had so much interest in classes that we couldn't keep up with all the requests that we had. So we had to bring on some more artists, which I guess that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But it's made us pretty busy, and like we talked about, trying to get schedules to match up and time zone changes and all that stuff to be able to finally get on and be able to do the interview with you again has just been, I think we've been trying for like a month and a half now.
Oh yeah, maybe longer. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just been crazy, but we're mainly, I would say that we're best known for our airbrush classes that we're teaching. We have a full stable of classes, but the 101 airbrushing and a couple of the other offerings are probably what we're best known for.
Sure. And I think it's important to remind people, let people know this isn't your main occupation, is it?
No. I'm full-time employee with the United States government, and then Kat runs a tech company. So yeah, we do this in our spare time, as much of the spare time, I guess, as we have.
I think that's important, just because it's as much a hobby of love for you to do this.
Absolutely.
What you're doing, and I think it's very easy for people to get cynical when they're like, oh, it's an airbrush course, they're doing this, they're doing that, but it's not really the way you work, is it? You're doing this. I know we've had you on before, and you want to see people, improve their skills and allow them to help with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of what it's interesting because we're coming up on Adepticon, and that was literally 3 years ago where Caleb and I first started talking. And I had the Hobby Hangout going and was really community focused. That's a community group on Facebook for miniature hobbyists. And we started just chatting, and it was really all about really wanting to see some good changes in the community and to kind of change the dialogue in some ways and get the community kind of back in the United States focused on coming together and doing things together. And it was really interesting. There wasn't anybody doing the workshops from the US when we started 3 years ago. So we kind of paved the way a little bit in that regard, but it's always been through building the greater gaming community and also miniature hobbyist enthusiasts, and getting to collaborate with some of these artists that we've brought on has just kind of expanded on that and allowing us to have not only a greater reach, but in our own bubble, we're having more community experience with he and I. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. I think it's only fair that I announce that I've been on one of your courses. When you guys came over to the UK, I jumped on that, and I've been a bad boy with following it up, I must admit. But certainly, learned a lot over that weekend. I'm coming from that end. I'm not completely impartial on this.
Yeah, you were in our UK class last year. Yeah, and that was such a special location too. We were at Sanctuary Gaming, and that old church in that setting, that's an incredibly memorable experience that we had there. And we were there during your 1 week out of the year where you have a heat wave, I think.
Yeah, the earliest the spring heat wave. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so fun. It was such a good time.
It was the great heat wave of 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We actually had quite a good. Yeah, you got the early bit of that, and Kat, you were still cold for various parts of that. So
I'm still bundled up.
Yeah, bless. But yeah, so I got to experience the 101, which is, as you say, what you kind of built from. How to paint. There are other people doing it, as you've alluded to. There are people now doing courses and traveling and everything else, but it's all a fairly new phenomena in terms of the spread. And you guys have kind of, you're busy, and hence part of been taking on the new guys as well. That's only become more of a thing.
Yeah, I think in let's see right now, if I were to look back to January for this year, we currently have 20 workshops, and we're scheduling 9 more right now. Yeah. So I just got another confirmation today for another one for Sam in Portland coming up. So we're very excited about it. And I think in total for 2016, 2017, and 2018, we might have done 25 workshops in that time. So the amount of work that we're doing now and the number of workshops that we're doing is a lot greater. But we've also spent a lot of time learning how to focus where we're putting the workshops. So we're going to central areas, not everybody's town, but to an area where people can access. So when we go over to the UK, we want to be somewhere that's relatively easy for people to access. And that's something that we have Dev Sodegaard that he's in London and he's part of our team. And so he's able to literally go into the venues, check out the venues. He's done so much work to put workshops together for us for over there that are coming up, and really kind of put a personal touch on it because we can't be there to do it. So it's taking the team to do this, and so it's becoming more and more refined. And we're able to kind of target where we're putting workshops. So if you hear of it being, in an area that you're in, you'll want to go to that one because it's not that it's going to come directly to your city possibly, but it's going to be in an area near you. Yeah. Accessible, hopefully.
Yeah. And you're never going to please everyone all the time. But what you can do is make sure most of the people can be able to get to somewhere. Gamers tend to be real stick in the muds for not travelling. I find, I don't know how what kind of response you've had, but trying to get some people to travel an hour to do something in the gaming community can sometimes be the hardest thing in the world. But
it is. It's true. But then we have a lot of guys that fly all over. We've got he's making his third trip from LA up to the Bay Area to take a class. So he's flown up 3 times. We've got a guy that's near to me that lives near me, and he's flown to Portland. He's going to fly to Canada. Cool. Got a guy out of the Caymans. He's flown over 15,000 miles to take our classes, and he signed up for another one already in Texas. He comes in, flies from very far away and comes in regularly to take the classes. So each time we add one, he comes in and takes it.
No excuses, people. There's no excuses. Yeah.
Exactly. If Dave can do that, anybody can. Yeah. And it's worth it. The weekends are so fun. You're spending the weekend with people that game or people that are at least into the art. And a lot of times people put games together. So they'll hang out on Friday night when everybody gets in and go out or, go and actually set up some games to play at the store if we're doing one at the store. It's pretty fun. It's really community and it's neat. We help kind of build the local communities too, because this draws so many people in that may not be part of a single store, a single venue, and gets everybody kind of centralized. And the way we set up our classes allows for that. We have the groups on Facebook where people kind of get to know each other, and then they keep track of each other afterwards. And they build their own little community. And then it's fun because a lot of times we'll go revisit that one and do another class. And they all want to come back and hang out together again and do another class. So it's pretty cool. It's really neat to have that side of it.
I think, Greg, you're part of the UK group still, right? The CK Studio.
Yeah. For my shame, I don't post much, but I'm on there. Yeah.
That is probably our most active. For the people that haven't taken the course, when you register, you get invited into a private Facebook group, and that Facebook group gets you certain discounts that you get for product and stuff like that from the class. You get all the information from the class. You're going to get your builds and ideas for color choices, et cetera, et cetera. Normally, after the class, those groups kind of peter out. I mean, we don't close them off, but that UK group, they've been doing the hangouts together. I mean, it's just so super active. So that's pretty neat. Just that one class has kind of created its own community.
Yeah, it really has. But you're also in the same time zone.
Yeah.
So, and that helps a lot. That really does. But we also, one of the neat things with taking the classes is, I like it because we built more of a program and not just, hey, come sign up for our workshops and then that's it. We really have been for the last 3 years building a program around this where it's continual. When you take our workshops, you get out of the workshop, you get put into our community group with the alumni, which is still growing. It's got about 325 people in it right now, I think. And we currently have another 167 people registered coming up. Wow. So that group's going to continue to grow. And it's that community kind of feeds itself. They've all been through the same experiences with the courses and stuff. There's a lot of good humor in there involved in that. And everybody really has gotten to know each other. And it's kind of neat because they're starting to see each other and meet each other that have been in classes in other places and meet up at like at Adepticon or Nova and that kind of thing because they've met through the CK community. And so you take the class, you go through this experience with us, and then we continue on with this community where we're trying to also envelop continuing education or at least continual resources and events and things like that. We did a mini swap, and Dev Sodegaard just ran it was a full class with a bunch of modules in it that you could follow along and do a full army painting class based on Dave Taylor's book. So it's a continual thing, and that's all just part of being in the community. That's what comes with us, and we're continuing to evolve that too, and have a lot of really fun ideas. So it's not just come take our workshop; it's come join the community, and that's kind of I think we have a really special experience involved, and it's not, you don't have to be just in the United States. Like Caleb's talking about, you guys have your own thing going and it's still vibrant and it's being fed over in the UK, and getting to throw new classes in the UK this year again means we get to kind of grow that community a little bit more.
Sure, yeah.
And that's exciting. It's really neat to kind of put that out there for people.
Excellent. Yeah. And not just that, as you're offering all that, but also, you've talked about, you started off with the 101, but what are you up to now, the 103, plus all the other classes that are being done by other guys? How many different classes have you got on the go at the moment?
We have 6 titled classes. We're offering, at this time, I think we might be offering all 6. Airbrushing 101 is our core basic airbrushing class. And then Caleb has the next step. If you're going to be taking the airbrushing classes, you'll be in the airbrushing 101, the core basics, and then you would follow that with one of Caleb's large creature or monster classes, but they're large figure, large creature classes, and that's when you go into the detail brush and you take your airbrushing another step further. But he also still touches on the beginning concept so that you can follow into it if you want to take just that class. So he goes really deep into the airbrush there. I think he's also developing other classes at this time for doing units and a large vehicle that'll carry on with that idea of airbrushing. The other guys, on the other hand, are also doing large creature. They're doing Titan class, or not Titans. They're doing Imperial Knights. The large creature class. The large creature class that Sam does is all creature caster based, and I can tell you about that one's kind of fun. Vince is doing the Imperial Knight. Sam has done the Imperial Knight. There's the unit and squad that we're doing over in the UK with Vince, and then he's doing his own large figure centerpiece one, but his are based on GW large centerpieces. So their classes on that track with Sam and Vince incorporate using the airbrush, but it's not about getting the most out of learning techniques about your airbrush. They're going to show you how to use your airbrush to accomplish a few techniques in it, but it's more based around completing these project models. And so Vince incorporates oils and decals and freehand, and oh my gosh, it goes into so many different techniques. And then Sam does the same thing. And so they're a little lighter on the airbrush. It's not their key focus. It's the entire project, and it's using all the tools you possibly can. Justin is also on the same track with Caleb, along the lines of airbrushing classes. So there's kind of the two things going on, although all of them have airbrushing in them.
Cool. Keeping you busy with the admin as well.
What's that?
Keeping you busy with the admin. There's a lot of different stuff going on there.
She's busy.
A tremendous amount of admin.
Yeah, excellent. Yes. And we see obviously with those people as well, you can spread CK a little bit further as well, which is good, reaching more places. Do we want to dive into the UK class now? Would that be a good place to do that?
Absolutely.
So let's start with, when are you coming over? Let's get the date right out the front there, if you've got it to hand.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for Vince's classes, he's going to be in London and he's coming over and teaching the weekend before Warhammer Fest. So he'll be there May 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th. He's teaching 2 different classes, and May 4th and 5th, he'll be doing the unit and squad class where you bring in unit and squad. Is it unit, squad, and large vehicle, or unit, squad, vehicle, Caleb?
I think that's still to be determined. Originally, it was going to be vehicle and infantry, so it would be 1 vehicle and 1 unit of infantry. One day would be painting on the vehicle, the next would be on an infantry, and it's not a particular model. Like, you don't need to bring in 5 Primaris and I forget what the name of the Primaris tank is. It's not that. You're going to be able to bring in your units.
Sure.
And the basis is going to be there. The basics of this is how you paint this, and this is the style here. But then you get to make it unique to what you're doing, and he'll help work you through that. So that's going to be the Saturday, Sunday class. That's going to be the our standard times, because our classes normally run. They're 8 hours long with an hour lunch break. Yeah. Sometimes they run a little longer depending on how interested everybody is and if the venue will support it. But we're going to try something new with the second class. Last year we ran 2 classes. We ran the 101 and then we ran the large figure class on Monday, Tuesday. And those followed the same time periods where it was 9 a.m. Until 6 p.m. with an hour lunch break. And this time around, we're going to try something new. We're going to actually start the class at 3 p.m.
Right.
on Monday, and it's going to run until 11 p.m. And the hope is that some of the people that can't take a full day off work, or you're going to try to make a little bit of a holiday of it.
Sure.
You want to go do some tourism and stuff like that. It's pretty tough to go out at 9 o'clock at night to go see the sites and hit the museums and all of that stuff. Yeah. So we're going to try this, and we're going to run actually from, like I said, 3 p.m. until 11 p.m. For this class. There will be a dinner break in it. And I think, I'm not sure exactly how Dev's got that planned out for how the dinner break's going to work, but we're going to see. I'm really hoping it works out well, because I'd love to see an offering of evening courses that we could do. I think that would help expand the community. I think that would expand to people that just don't have the ability to take time off from work, or people that work on weekends. We get that a lot, where
Sure.
we get requests for classes during the week because you have people that work on the weekends. Their job entails them to do that. So we're gonna see. We're gonna use you guys as the test group, I guess.
Cool. Excellent. And those so they're taking place in London in Darksphere.
Yes.
I've just seen it there. So it's Shepherd's Bush. So they've opened a second venue in Shepherd's Bush, which is quite a good location. Actually, it's not quite deepest, darkest London. A bit easier to get to, even from me. Potentially, I could probably drive there rather than having to rely on public transport, which sometimes in London, when you're trying to carry a air compressor and everything else, is not necessarily something you want to do, even on the quietest times. So that's cool. I need to get out there myself. Yeah, that's really cool. So that's Vince running those. Yeah, you said.
Yeah, he's doing the unit and squad one, and he's, for his description, he's kind of going over covering airbrushing, blending, glazing, advanced finishing, to get your infantry up to a high quality, and do almost, I don't want to call it speed painting, but applicably, everything you're learning can be sped up, and you are speed painting to a high standard, high quality, high tabletop.
Efficient.
And then the second class he's doing is this large creature centerpiece. Again, you're going to be doing airbrushing and advanced brushwork, a bunch of different kinds of finishing techniques, and it's really based around more of the organics side of doing this, and applying it to one of the GW creatures. So like your bloodthirsters or lords of change or anything like that. It would be focused on whatever you want to bring in, but for a GW centerpiece monster. And he's really excited about both of these classes. He absolutely, oh my gosh, he loves doing the Imperial at Night because he loves doing Titans. Titans are a lot of fun for him. He loves the freehand portion of it, and he just gets really into it. But I think he has really, really wanted to teach this large creature class. He's had it in mind. He teaches he teaches a lot of things on his YouTube channel, so you get snippets of all of these things. But what he does with his actual models that he puts out every week, he is constantly rolling out units and creatures. Every week, it's like he's got a award-winning quality model, set, a squad and a monster of some sort, and a squad and a large figure of some sort. So you kind of get this full entire Vince experience that he's so good at, so talented at, and has so much experience. And he's been teaching on his YouTube channel for so long that it's just completely innate to him to stand up and teach classes. He teaches at events too, so he's been doing it for a while. So it just makes that a lot of fun, and he's super, super, super excited. He got to put these classes together himself, so he's bringing to the table something he's excited about.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I must admit, that to be able to efficiently put out good quality units is something that does appeal to me quite a lot. So I'll be.
It says you'll be covering flesh, armor, cloth and fur, other textures, surfaces, all kinds of stuff in the unit class.
Excellent.
So, yeah, exciting.
Let's just repeat the dates for those. So that's May, isn't it? 4th and 5th for the unit, and the 6th and 7th for the other one. And that's London. And there is a discount if you want to do both. If you want to book the 4 days off and go down and learn how to paint like a master.
It's $100 US, because I have to do my store in US dollars.
Sure.
So $100 US off if you take both classes.
There we go. You never know, the pound might be a little bit stronger against the dollar by then. Depending on what goes on in the world, which we won't get into. And all this information as well, we should say, it's all up on the Facebook page. So you can find, and I'll put links in the show notes anyway, but CK Studios, it's nice and easy. You can search for it, and it all shows up.
They can go to ckstudios.bigcartel.com, and that's the registration page, and pull up Vince's classes for the UK.
Awesome.
Gives you all the description of the classes, and you can. We also accept deposits for this, so that option's there on the site. And if you want to take multiple classes, then the option to do the discounted one is. We have 6 people enrolled already. We just opened this Thursday, I think, or something like that, and we have 6 people enrolled in the unit class and 4 or 5 enrolled in the creature class already. So probably going to fill up fairly quick.
How many spaces do you have?
I think Vince wants to cap it at either 20 or 25.
Sure. Okay.
It has the space. It's a large space, but he needs to be able to teach the class well. And Dev is also going to be there. You know how when you took your class, I was there.
Yeah.
I was taking a nap a lot.
Yes.
But I was there. I was physically there for some of it. But Dev will be there to assist Vince, like I was there with Caleb. So there will be two members from our team in the classes.
Excellent stuff.
I was going to say, for the U.S. listeners, also, if you're interested in looking at any of our other offerings, that same address, the Big Cartel, CK Studios at bigcartel.com, that will have all our class listings there. So if there's something in your area you're looking for, just head over to that site and it'll give you a full list of all the classes available this year. I think we have classes scheduled. I think everything up all the way to the end of September, I believe we're scheduled right now.
Yeah, we're scheduled to September. I've got to update the schedule and add the UK classes that just went on last week. Portland just confirmed today. Philadelphia with Sam is coming online also. I'm getting a confirmation for them for July. And then Caleb has several other classes at the end of the year already lining up. I think he's looking at Indianapolis and Phoenix and Kissimmee, Florida. And so we've got some more to add, but we have some confirmations and classes that are definitely a fly right now.
Excellent.
And yeah,
yeah, and it's
constantly updating.
Yeah, and as we said, you're going to be at Adepticon doing bits and pieces, but you also do. You've got Nova written in there, and you do Las Vegas as well. So there's those
Gen Con.
And Gen Con.
We'll be at Gen Con. Caleb's doing something really fun at Gen Con this year.
Yeah.
And they've never had anybody come in and do a full day class.
Right.
And he's going to do 2 full day classes of painting armatures, airbrushing.
Cool.
And yeah, those are going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a first time run through for Gen Con as well. It'll be kind of neat to see that. He's teaching that class down at Adepticon too. So we're just having a blast with it. We have a huge project at Nova with the Warlord Titan, but we should probably come on and talk about that sometime.
Yeah, we can do that. All your talk about Gen Con's making me want to go back to Gen Con, which I'm not sure is going to be possible amongst the travelling for Adepticons and things like that. But yeah, that sounds quite cool actually. Because Gen Con's so big that taking a day out to paint you're not missing out on huge Gen Con stuff because it's all still there.
Yeah, it is an epic experience.
Yeah, and a lot of walking. You need. I slept on the floor of a bedroom at Gen Con, and my shoes weren't that great, and I was a wreck by the end of it. But yeah, it's what you do when you're an idiot, isn't it? It's all good fun.
That happens to me when we do LVO. We get walking around. I think we had to stop and buy me a pair of tennis shoes one time. We were walking the strip, and I was like, "No, I can't do this anymore. My feet are killing me."
Yeah, it takes it out of you. It really does. Excellent. What else? You've got so much going on. I've lost track of what I'm doing. What else do you want to get out there now about the classes while we've got you here? Is there anything specific?
I'd like to kind of talk about the Creature Caster classes coming up,
sure,
because that might be something that Sam brings over to the UK. It's definitely something that's on his trajectory. And also for your US listeners, because Sam will have coming up starting in May, he'll have one monstrous creature workshop coming up every month until December, and he's going to take December off. And this class I'm really excited about the way we've kind of collaborated and built this one out. We're working with Creature Caster, and they are, Sam went through their product catalog and chose 4 different models for the students to choose from. So it's completely different in that you kind of I'm calling it a choose your own adventure class.
Sure.
Where you can choose which model you want to take the class and focus on. And Creature Caster's cutting a really good discount to the students to get their models. And it's kind of neat because they also distribute over in Europe now. They're in the UK, so we'll be able to access that when we go over there to do classes. But Sam's, I think he's painted like 5 or 7 of the Creature Caster demon models already, or not just the demon, but the monster models already.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely loves it. So his classes are really going to be rolling out. And one of the things he's doing is developing his own track of classes where they focus. He's looking at it kind of like in a 6-month or to a year-long scope, where he is working on certain types of projects during the year, and they coincide with what he puts up on his Twitch. And as he does that and he completes these projects, and he's working on Creature Caster models right now, he'll run workshops that go along with what he's doing in other outlets. So if you're following along and watching what he's doing on Twitch, now you can come paint with it, and which is kind of a really cool concept. And his Twitch feeds are really cool. They're very social, and they're very fun. He doesn't teach you a full class in Twitch. You definitely get a taste for what you could learn from him, and they're an absolute blast to follow his Twitch feeds, but it definitely gives you the urge to take his class. I'm going to take it when he brings it to the Bay Area because it's close to me. In fact, Justin and I are both going to go in and crash that class and take it because it just sounds like so much fun. So I kind of want to talk that one up because we're about ready to put a whole bunch more on the calendar for him. We only have 2 so far, and his classes just sell like crazy. They sell out really quickly. They're making good sales for the areas they're going into. So the community experience will be really fun. There'll be a lot of people in class with you, which I don't know if you remember from your class. It's a lot of fun to be in a classroom full of people that are talking while they're hobbying, and the people around you start talking about games and everything else. It makes it a more in-depth experience. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think the term class sometimes doesn't do it justice, because when you think class, you think school. But
right,
when you're in any environment where everyone's chosen to be there because they love what they do or they want to get better at it, they're committed to what's going on, then that means that no matter who you're sat down next to, you've got something in common with them, for starters. Right. So you can chat and like that. But also there's the atmosphere is that much better. You're there to learn and to try and progress with what you're doing, and also to help each other out. The amount of times where we were like, didn't really understand what we were saying. Oh, we were saying this. Okay, cool. Yeah. Where you've not been listening or what have you, and you turn around or even, oh no, I've only bought 2 different reds and I need a lighter red. Sure, no worries, borrow mine. That kind of thing really helps as well.
Yeah, that's all part of the experience for sure.
And I must admit,
so cool.
So there's a lot of names we've thrown out as well today, and I'm not into watching Twitch painters very much. That's not something I do, and I see pretty models, but I don't necessarily look at who's painted them. It's not something it's not my sphere, shall we say. But I went and looked at Sam's blog that he's got, and there's some pretty nice stuff on there. So if you are listening and you're like, well, I don't know who these people are, you can go and look them up, because they've all got work out there that's visible that you can go and see, and I think that's only sensible. If you are going to pay money, it's a good idea to do that, but I don't think you'll be disappointed either with any of the people that you find work for.
Oh,
so,
they're a lot of fun. We've really put together an amazing crew of people. I think we feel really, really lucky to be working with all of them, and they're such a fun team. They're so supportive of each other.
Excellent.
It's that moment of where Caleb and I are like, we really want to kind of change the dialogue in the community, because you have a lot of competitive people in it.
Yes.
You've got competitive gamers, but I don't know that I wouldn't want to make anybody mad on this, but I would say the artist community can be more competitive than the gaming community. And it can get kind of gnarly in the hobby community. And so we really kind of wanted to change that dialogue and it not be us versus let's kind of figure out how to do this together, because we're able to do more for the general community the stronger we are as a team.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it from the outside looking in, talking or standing around with Neil at various Golden Demons or what have you. And starting to get to know a few of those people, and the way they talk to each other, they're sizing each other up all the time as to what they've bought in, or I'm talking to someone, I've got an idea for Golden Demon, you can't tell anyone. It's and that's fair, and that's understandable to a point, but it is quite funny how competitive it is.
It really is.
They're like prize fighters standing around looking at each other, eyeing each other up before every event. So and so's looking good today. Oh yeah. And then when they find something wrong on a model, it's vicious. It's like piranhas.
It is.
But
it is, and then when you're competing, no one's ever going to be happy about who won.
No, because there is that.
Everybody thought they should win.
Yeah, absolutely, and sometimes
it kind of sucks to be on top sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to. In fact, we said it before. it was the Heresy Weekender 2018 was one of the few times when Ken won from Tokyo, and it was the only time that the whole room went wild and mad because he just genuinely had that passion for I've won and that joy of winning, and everyone was just like, we don't know this guy, brilliant. But it's rare that you get quite so much like enthusiasm in the clapping all the time. There's usually a few groups who are like, well, I thought so and so's was better. But,
there's so much of it.
Yeah, well,
there really is. Yeah,
or even when Neil won his Heresy Demon, it was like, well, I thought my other one was better. I'm like, no, dude. But he got himself sure that he'd lost, hadn't won it. But painters, funny lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Painters, funny lot.
Yeah, big time.
Painters are a funny lot, definitely. That's a great way to put that. And I think it's being effective, just kind of raising your voice a little bit differently, and really kind of putting yourself into the community without that vibe, and invite each other to kind of take the journey together. I think we've really nailed that with the hobby hangout. There's 6,500 people in there or something from around the world. It's in over 140 countries. 140, wow. 112, something like that. Anyway, it's all over the world, and that we fostered a voice in that. And I have moderators that work that group, and of course Liz Hunt, who I think I had only started it, and she joined me like 2 days later when I started that group, and we just kind of built it out into. You have to kind of be real positive. This is a place where you go and you speak kindly to each other and of each other, and give good critique and give good feedback and give good suggestions, and really stay completely out of all of the other stuff. Yeah. And it really did a lot to kind of build that. And then Caleb and I built upon that. And then, of course, working with the guys in the Independent Characters podcast, they have the same kind of quality to their community nurturing. And they really, although they're real game focused, whereas the Hobby Hangout is artist focused or hobbyist focused, they're very much like that with the game community. And that's kind of the other side of where Caleb and I are at on the community, is in the game community. And so it's just been really neat. In the last couple of years, I really think we're seeing a difference in just even in the dialogue, the way people are treating each other now. And it's not so accessible or acceptable to be kind of a Debbie Downer,
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? Negative Nancy, whatever it is.
Yeah, that will do.
So,
yeah, I completely agree with that. And this show tries to do it as well. In that I'm quite happy on here to say that I don't do certain things. Whether it's painting or gaming or listening to certain podcasts, that, that's not for me. I'm never going to be the best painter in the world because I haven't got the patience for it, and I haven't got the desire to paint every model to the best of my ability, which you need if you want to if you're going to put 40 hours in like Neil does, and anyone competition painting will do a minimum of, then you need to be able to want to do that, and that's not me. And I feel it's quite important sometimes. I'm on a podcast, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to paint the models to a standard I want to paint the models to. And do the same with gaming as well, and allow people. It's every now and then you get someone who listens who says, you know what, you're the first person I've heard say that. And I'm not the first person to say it, but I'm the first person they've heard say it because they've got a small group. And it gives them a validation that they don't have to do it a certain way. Mm-hmm. Which is...
Exactly.
It's kind of sad that we've had to do it, but, it's good that it's being done now.
Yeah, and raise that voice. I think it's awesome. It grows the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it just makes things much more accessible from every aspect. We're not all going to be, we're not all going to be winning Slayer swords. It's not going to happen. It can't happen. And whether that's because of time and desire or what have you, it doesn't really matter. We can all still enjoy what we're doing.
Exactly. I don't aspire to be a competitive artist yet. That's one of Caleb's greatest joys.
Yeah.
He really, in the hobby, he really enjoys the competitive painting part. And for me, it's like, no, that just doesn't do it for me. Just doesn't. Not
Yeah.
something I'm interested in. I've done a couple of competitions, but that's okay.
I think that's the great thing about this hobby in general, is there is definitely a place for everybody. If you like to just paint miniatures. You don't have to be a gamer. You don't have to subscribe to being a competition painter. You can just enjoy painting miniatures. If you're a gamer, man, you can go hire someone to paint your miniatures.
Yeah.
There's definitely a place for everybody, and it's nice when everybody's given a voice like that.
Yeah. And it's also nice that you guys and others out there are providing a service where, again, 4 or 5 years ago, people would say, "Well, why would I go on a paint class? I don't. I'm not trying to be the best painter in the world." But actually, that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to give people the skills to be able to achieve what they want to achieve from the hobby. So. That's and again, I fit right into that boat. Where I, particularly when I'm looking at that unit thing, if Vince can come and teach me how to be much more effective with my time on painting an army, then I've always said that's worth more money than someone teaching me how to edge highlight perfectly, because my time is much more important to me than getting that line perfectly straight. Not that both couldn't happen, but so everyone.
And that's the neat thing with the workshops is everybody comes in on their own journey and accelerates their own journey, and there's what Caleb and I call the monkey see, monkey do. We don't want this class to be come in here and just do what we're doing so that you can do it our way and then you leave and that's not going to stick with you. It needs to be applicable to what you're doing so that it goes with your journey. Though we're all kind of doing the same thing, we're choosing our own colors. We might be on the same model, some classes not. The unit classes and Vince's are not going to be the same. The monster classes are not going to be the same. They're going to be something you're interested in, and it personalizes it. And it everybody comes in and there's no expectation of what you need to get out of this. It's what do you want to get out of this? And how does this apply to what you're doing? Because more than likely, we're going to cover it. And that's kind of really cool. You have a lot of flexibility with the workshops that way. And Caleb is phenomenal. So is Vince. I did a class with Vince and Sam. We've done one with Sam. We've done one with Justin, done one with Vince. All of the instructors take the individual time during class to work with people. So if you're struggling on freehand, but the guy next to you is struggling on blending, the instructor is going to work with both of you and take you down where you need to go because that's what you're working on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of flexibility like that. Definitely not something you can get from watching a YouTube.
No, absolutely.
That's a huge difference where, a lot of people go to for tips. It's like you evolve. If you've been watching YouTube for a while, you hit a wall where you need to be painting and doing this with someone who can give you the feedback on the spot when you hit the bump, because we all hit the bumps.
Sure. And we all learn differently as well.
Absolutely.
I'm not someone who could. Well, within my friend learned to airbrush from YouTube, and he does very well with it. And he's progressed from there. He stopped watching YouTube videos and learns by trial and error and doing things. But I know if I did it that way, it would take 5 times as long if I ever got there to where he is. So we all do learn differently.
That's one of the great concepts we find with me and Kat when we're teaching together, and why I like this dual teacher aspect that we have is people do learn different. And I think back to ReaperCon, Kat, and that one student, and man, I must have went over the concept like 6 times with him and he just wouldn't get it. Yeah. And then Kat went and explained it a different way, because Kat does things differently than me. She sees the same technique, she sees differently. And she was able to figure out how he learns and help him. And ever since then, we have a really good time during class just talking about the students and say, hey, look at the difference in how so-and-so teaches this. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to do this section with him. Would you mind going over and working on that same section with that person? Because they're totally different.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I was that guy There was one point, and I was just kept coming up to Caleb. I was like, you kept. I can't remember what I was doing, but you were like, no, this, and I'm like, I thought I'd done that. But and it happens. It does happen. It's only natural.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's fun. Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. So much busy. Lots and lots of busy, Greg.
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to have to try and find some time to meet up at Adepticon. I'm assuming you've got a busy schedule at Adepticon.
Yeah, we're flying in. I'm flying in Tuesday. Caleb flies in early Wednesday. I'm actually, big news on the Adepticon front. I'm shadowing Damon Drescher this year. He's the one that manages the whole hobby program.
Cool.
Because he's asked me to step up and take over his position.
Ooh.
So 2020, I'll be managing the hobby program for Adepticon. So this year, a little bit different kind of busy. I don't know if I'm going to make it into all the classrooms with Caleb. I'm going to try and hit as much of it as I can, but I'll be doing other things with managing. So it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a little bit different. Not so much of a convention experience for me. Be a little more working, but it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
And what a change this year for me. With us not working with Badger, I won't be doing all the Badger classes.
Right.
So I'm just doing my standard spread of classes, and then I'm done.
Sure.
So it's going to be nice for me. I actually get to have a convention for once.
Okay.
I plan to go paint with Andy for a little bit. We're going to sit down and do a little painting together. I'm going to be working on the the Warlord. I'll be working on him a little bit down in the hobby area. So if you want to come down and hang out with me and just paint and stuff like that, I'll totally be down there. And that goes for anybody, not just Greg. If you just feel like hanging out and painting and I'm in that area, just come hit me up and we'll sit down and paint, definitely.
That hobby area was one of my I kept walking past it, because you do keep walking past it, but it seemed like a really cool, if that's your thing. Like, I knew people in there, they didn't seem to move from a seat, or they might move down 3 seats to go and talk to someone else, but they didn't seem to move from that hobby area for 4 days. Just there. And it was, that boggles my mind because I don't work that way, but it also seems just really cool that, Adepticon are providing something where you can come and do your hobby for 4 days.
They call that Fort Wapple.
Yeah. They're,
James and Kathy Wapple put a lot of energy into that area. They set up all the materials, and this year we've got Reaper sets up a big paint rack there. I've got Vallejo sponsored a whole bunch of stuff. There's lights, there's all kinds of things. It's just a huge come and hang out. And you've got some of the top artists from around the world in our industry focus that come to Adepticon to teach, but they come down there and they hang out the whole time. So you could literally sit down and, like, Caleb will be sitting there painting on the Warlord. Go hang out with him, paint with him, ask him questions.
I might put you to work.
Right?
Why not? It's a big model.
It is. Oh, we have our whole team working on it.
This thing is incredible.
On the book side of it, though, to be a little more relevant to what you're doing, Carl Tuttle is writing the backstory for this Warlord Titan project we're doing. The Warlord Titan project, in brief, is a charity project we're doing for Nova Open Charitable Foundation. It's a donation for them to raffle off. And our entire team is involved. And Carl Tuttle's writing a background story novelette, if you will, for the Titan itself. And it's being built to that story and all of the art that's going on to it. Vince and Sam are going to be doing all of the freehanding on it, and everything is being built into the story behind it. And we've got another team member, Devin Bush, that's going to do a custom base for it to kind of bring that story into the whole thing, and a display of it. And the Warlord itself will be removable, so you can actually play with it. So that'll go up for actual raffle at the Nova Open, and we'll be linking up how you can get involved in that and how you can buy your raffle tickets. for it, because you'll be able to do it online even if you don't go to Nova.
Yeah.
So that one's a big one, and Caleb's literally working on banging out as much of the airbrushing and all these great big plates so that the guys can work on the freehand right now. And then we'll be creating a book to go with it with Carl's story in it and everything, and then have a big party and reveal for it at Nova. So we've got 8 people working on it. It's a big project.
Wowzers. Yeah,
Big project.
I'll try and pop by and get some footage of that over the weekend, because I've got quite a loose schedule. So
good.
I'll try and do that. If I haven't, people remind me. We'll try and get that done. And well, there's a lot of cool names attached to it, and a Warhammer hero himself right in the background, because I know Carl loves being referred to as a Warhammer hero. So we'll do that.
He is a Warhammer hero this year. What an honor, and he so deserves.
Yeah, absolutely, big time.
Talk about a guy that's there for the community.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely great. He just needs to play more Heresy, and we'd like him more. But
are you the one that's got Caleb thinking about playing Heresy?
I don't know. I don't know if I've specifically
30K.
Don't know if I've specifically
got who's inspiring him.
Well, I don't know. Don't know about that one. He obviously hasn't seen me play. If he wants to be inspired, but it's,
you haven't seen me play.
It's Heresy. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty. Right? That's the beauty of a Heresy event, particularly any one that I run. There is no first place, so you can just pretend. If you lost all your games and you're embarrassed, you can just pretend you didn't, because there's no record put up at the end of it to tell you otherwise. So
that's awesome.
That's
the kind of tournament I need to play in.
Yeah, it's properly relaxed. It's all good. Yeah, brilliant. You have got some. A little bit of news about the airbrush coming up. Anything else before we move on to that, or are we? I think we've fairly covered a lot of stuff.
I think so.
Yeah, excellent. So, airbrushes. As you said, you've moved on from Badger for reasons, and you're working with Harder Steinbeck. Is that correct?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic partnership. Man, I cannot talk enough about that evolution. That brush is just such an incredible brush to me. And everybody that listens to me talk. In fact, we had a student at a class. Real quick story. We had a student at just a recent class that came up, and right in the middle of the class, he says, you were painting with the Badger brushes and all that stuff, and now I hear you talking about this evolution brush, and you guys are selling them, and I can't help but think you're kind of a sellout. And I was just like, man. I said, okay, I can appreciate that, because I have voiced those same opinions of other artists, when they've switched over to something that maybe I might not have thought was like a better brand or whatever. And so I said, okay. I said, no, that's fair. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to warn you right now, if I let you use this brush, you're going to be buying a new brush before the end of this class. And he kind of laughed about it and stuff like that. And I said, okay, I'm going to show you why I'm talking so much about the evolution. And I just did a little demo with it, and I put the brush into his hand, and he ended up painting the rest of the class with it. And sure enough, that was it that afternoon or the next morning, he finally broke down and says, okay, you got any more left? I got to buy it. Because I mean, that's where that brush is at, and there's a reason Cult of Paint's brush sold so well. And there's a reason that a lot of painters are kind of moving over to this. That 0.4 nozzle is just, it's incredible. It's incredible, the stuff that it does. It's replaced both my detail brush and my workhorse brush as my go-to brush. That 0.4 is amazing. And as much as I like that 0.4, I was just talking the other day with Warwick from Harder and Steenbeck, and I've always been a little bit of a Debbie Downer on that 0.15 that Harder and Steenbeck offers. Right. In the past, I've always felt it's just too small of a nozzle to be able to paint with for miniature painting, for acrylic painting. It's so finicky on paint prep,
sure.
And he said, "Man, give this thing a try. Just use the new." If everybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about with Harder and Steenbeck is when Will stepped in at Harder and Steenbeck, they decided they wanted to find out what was going on with the front of an airbrush. And so they put a bunch of energy and time. I think we talked about this in a past podcast, but they put a bunch of energy, time, money into studying what was going on at the front of the brush and how to make a brush better. And the one thing that they found was that the same characteristics that allowed for a better atomization and a better cone of spray were the same characteristics that kind of resisted dry tipping a little bit, which if you're a miniature painter and you're painting acrylics, that's like the 1-2. Those are the things that you struggle with is good spray and dry tipping. And so they developed these new nozzle needles, and they're absolutely incredible. It's not me trying to make a sale or to push harder. I mean, they are that good. I was just blown away by it. So I'm playing with the 1.5 now, and I plan for the Nova Open Foundation. I have to do a Night Lords kill team, or not kill team. Oh goodness, what's the Forge World
Zone Mortalis
warfare thing called?
Zone Mortalis.
Zone Mortalis. We're doing a Zone Mortalis unit or army of Night Lords, and I'm planning on freehanding the lightning with the 1.5 or the 0.15 in this brush. I'm pretty confident that I can freehand the lightning and have the double layer lightning to where it's the light blue and then the white on the inside of it. On just standard Marines, not on Primaris or anything like that, just on the Forge World Night Lords. So that's how good these new needles are on these brushes. So I'm super excited to be over at Harder and Steenbeck. That Evo just fits my style of painting absolutely to a T. The Infinity is incredibly nice. I won't say that it's not nice, but me personally, I really enjoy the Evo.
Sure.
So.
It was. They say that the atomization process, a good atomization process, also helps dry chipping. Actually, that makes perfect logical sense when you think about it. Maybe it's not easy to do, but the better you atomize the paint, the more it's gonna flow better and less catch and everything else. Exactly. But the fact is they've gone and done it. But also, I remember you kind of coming out after having chatted to them for the first time, and just the way like that chat seemed to go, you seemed extremely positive. They seem to be doing things right. Which
I think you were there when we first talked to them. They actually, when we went to the UK last year, a year ago in May, they came down from Germany to talk to us and kind of pursued us. And we sat around on that for a while and really had to spend some time on making that decision, because we were working with Badger at the time and whatnot. And man, all it takes is using their gear, and all of a sudden you just want that in everybody's hands. It was just so good, such a good quality product. But we do have our airbrushes coming out. It's a project that we've been working on with them. They're in development with it. We did get to see the first run of the prototype when they had us come over in October. When we went to Germany, we got to see their factory and do all that. Got to see how they literally take their airbrushes from a single rod of metal and turn it into an airbrush. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating what they do in there. And it's German technology. It's German run. I mean, you could eat off the floor of that factory. It was so clean in there. It was amazing. So our airbrush is in the queue. They've got several projects that they're putting out right now. And of course, they're in changes. They had change of ownership with the company and all that over the last couple of years. So they've really been rolling a lot of stuff out. So we don't want to put a date on it, even though we keep hearing dates and that kind of thing. We're going to wait until we get the final and then announce it. Sure. But both of us have our airbrushes coming out. Caleb's is the Evo and mine is the Infinity. So very excited about it.
Yeah, and they've been very successful as well. So that always can put a delay on things, keeping up with demand. So that's
a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nice to know that and you have to kind of look at it that way. We're working with a company that's putting out really good quality and they're in demand. And It's not that they're partnering up and putting out a bunch of custom airbrushes all over the place. There's a couple of us that they've done this with, and it takes a bit. They have to fulfill what's going on, and they're growing. People are getting to know Harder and Steenbeck. I really think that we've been able to make a real solid awareness of them in the U.S. So they're growing, and this is going to be exciting. It's going to happen. It'll be this year.
Excellent. Yeah, and the brushes you've got coming, they're to fit your specifications, your demands of what you think people should be looking for in a brush. And
yeah, Caleb chose the Evo line. He really likes the utility of the Evo line, and he likes the workmanship of it. And also, there's a lot to be said about when you're actually using your tool and how comfortable it is in your hand and that type of thing. It makes a difference. And I prefer the Infinity. And I actually, on my desk right now, I have 3 different Infinity builds running at all times. I have the 0.15, the 0.2, and the 0.4, but I really only need the 0.4. And so in either case, with these airbrushes, the way they've really done their new needle and nozzle design, you can get away with a 0.4 and get a lot out of it. But I find that I have a lot of really super precise control with the other sizes. And the Infinity, for me, the feel of the trigger is something that I like over the Evo. And the weight and the balancing of the brush itself feels really good in my hand.
Sure.
So, and there's only so much you can do with an airbrush. You can't, when they talk about customizing airbrushes, you can't just go in and change the internals of an airbrush and develop a new airbrush. An airbrush is an airbrush is an airbrush.
Yeah.
It's everything else they do with it, with the needles and the nozzles and the quality that they put into those things, that the trigger might be a little bit different in mechanism than it is on the Evo and that type of stuff. There's a few tweaks they can go in and do, but it's not, you're not getting a completely rebuilt airbrush, because it's just not necessary. The airbrush works the way it works as a tool. It's fine tuning all the little bits of it, so that makes it a custom brush. And mine is, of course, going to be pink, kind of a purple pink, and has a lot of really cool engraving work on it done, filigree work, and my cat logo and everything. So it's going to be the pink airbrush is going to be more of our statement of celebrating the women in art. There's a lot of women out there that do amazing airbrush art that's not even in our industry. And it's kind of our way of doing a big nod to the women out there, because you see a lot, from a women's perspective, you see a lot of boys' toys with the art industry. And it's going to be really nice to kind of have this, for me, a girly piece of gear. And the actual brush itself has meaning behind it. So good quality with a good meaning. And we're looking forward to being able to put that out. And we laugh about it, because when Caleb did his, it was like, what color do you want it to be? I want it to be black. Like, oh, really? We have to do a black airbrush? Why do boys always want to do everything in black? He's like, that's the coolest color. You got to do it in black. So
doesn't show up so many stains either. So,
right.
Yeah.
So we've had a good chuckle or two over that one.
Yeah, excellent. And it'd be really interesting, actually. I must admit, there might be some money start to be put aside to see what I do. And I've got a perfectly, good working airbrush, or 2, in fact. But yeah, I must admit I'm tempted. And in fact, even from my brief talk with the Harder Steenbeck guy, I can't remember his name, but I was impressed with the way they did things. And I know certainly in the UK, all the parts are accessible from Element Games. So I know that if something goes wrong, sometimes with some airbrush companies, it's not as easy to get a hold of bits. But if Element have got a bit in stock, I can have that next day. So and there are times when you're just like, you never drop your needle when you've got loads of time. It's never going to happen. I've got 6 months to do this project. That's fine. It's always, oh shoot, I was putting in an all-nighter. So So that is part of it for me on this side of the pond. I don't know what it's like over in the US at the moment. but I'm
So very true.
I'm sure Harder and Steenback are trying to get out there as much as possible over there as well. So that's all good. Excellent. Anything else before we go?
No, just other than I can't wait to see you next week. That's going to be a blast.
It
We
is gonna
missed
be
you at
really
LVO.
Indeed, can't wait.
It'll be nice.
Yeah.
We owe you a beer.
Well, yeah, or a non-alcoholic beverage, but certainly.
Or a non-alcoholic
Yeah, absolutely.
beverage,
Yeah,
definitely.
no, it's going to be good. Adepticon is definitely a weekend for me catching up with people in all the different rooms. You get the brilliant thing about podcasting is you get to know people, and actually, to be fair, just traveling to events, you get to know people. The only problem with that is you go to events and then you haven't got time to do anything at events because you just want to spend time meeting all the people. So but I'll be, as I said, I'll be wandering around and trying to catch up with you guys and all the other crazy stuff that goes on at Adepticon as well.
Wonderful.
and
it'll be so good to see you again.
Chaperoning Neil as well. Yeah, absolutely.
We're not going to recognize you. You're going to have to flag us down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have a picture beside me of me pre-weight loss. It'll be good. It'll be fine. It's I'm still going to be the loud guy with the English accent. There's a few more English accents over there now, but you know, my interesting voice, depending on who's reviewing the podcast, does stand out. So I've had positive and negative reviews on that, and I understandably, but it's all good. No, it's going to be great. So again, we've got the UK courses in May 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So if you're interested in that, go and check it out. If you're in the US or want to travel to the US to do a course, there's hundreds and millions of courses now. They're taking over and as I said, 6 different courses. So there's plenty to be getting on with and looking at if you're interested. My friend Chris was up in Portland. You guys the other weekend. That was I didn't realise he was doing that, so it was great to see, like, you know, my mate who's moved from up the road from me all the way over the other side of the world doing the same course. So I know we can share.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to talk to in class too. He's so enthusiastic about gaming.
He is, bless him. Yes,
and talented. That boy can paint.
Yeah. Get, you know, it's just, I'm not surprised. He's
talented. He's been in it for a long time too.
Yeah, he's old. That's what you're saying. He's old. He's old like me. Yeah, we're getting there. Awesome, brilliant. Well, I say I'll put the links in the show notes anyway for anyone who's missed out. But failing that, of course, you guys are willing to answer questions on the Facebook page, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah.
So. Anytime. That's the best way to get a hold of us is message us direct through Facebook, because Caleb and I can both see that. And sometimes, you know, like you talked about early in the show, this isn't our full-time job. I'm actually retired from my job. I own the company, but I don't manage it. I work pretty much full-time on CK Studios now. I have to with everything we have going on. It's it's full time, but we try and respond within a couple of days of anytime anybody messages, typically the same day, but best way to catch us is through Facebook.
And I think, again, any of these courses, they're not it's not, you're not paying $5. There's the time and effort, it's money we pay over. And for some people, obviously that's going to be easier to come by than it is for others. Don't be afraid to ask a question to know that it's the right thing for you to spend your money and time on doing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's that little fear of, well, am I going to get enough out, or is this going to suit me or whatever? But ask the questions, because carry on. Sorry. Yeah. Very
few questions come up now that we haven't heard before.
Sure. Absolutely.
We've run the gamut of it, and there's usually a solution for most things. And if we really don't think this is going to be a fit for you, we're definitely going to let you know. We don't want anybody going through it that's not ready for it, or is anticipating a different experience than they might have. Though I don't think we've ever really turned anybody down, but we're real honest about it. So definitely reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no, there aren't stupid questions. Don't worry, that stupid question's been asked 3 or 4 times. It's not a usual thing for a lot of gamers to attend something like this, to put money into that. So it's a bit of an alien world until you've done it. I must admit that all the time I was like, I know I'm going to learn stuff. I feel safe in that, but what am I going to learn? How is it going to be? How am I going to take this away and do things with it? Well, badly apparently, because I've been very lazy. But I understand the stuff. it's there in my head. So yeah, just don't be afraid to have an ask. Brilliant. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you, Greg.
And well, yeah, we'll talk to you again at some point anyway. And see you in not too long, a few days.
Lovely. See you in a few days.
Well, there we go. Another show done. Only the one real major segment, but we talked a lot at the start, so I'm cool with that. Basically, running out of time trying to get everything ready for Adepticon, but don't talk to Neil about that because he might be up late tonight. So
and tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll let him stew. It's all good. And got to go and pack and get everything ready and finish some washing and all that jazz, making sure I've got all the right stuff to take out there. Dropping off too much stuff to other people. My suitcase is half full of stuff for other people. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully they don't open it and get too interested in what's inside it. You know what airports can be like sometimes. We shall see. I want to say a big thank you to Patreon. Anyone who supports us on Patreon, brilliant. If anyone wants to support us on Patreon, if you believe that we're worth $1, you can come and give us $1 or more. And we are very grateful for all the people who support that. And I'm going to shout that out every show now. I'm going to try and make sure that I remember to do that because you guys are great and help pay all the bills that come in through. First off, I say this is coming out, hopefully, I think it might be the last day of Adepticon actually. So hopefully we've met some of you lovely people at Adepticon already. And for future events, if you ever see, because are you going to salute Neil afterwards?
Wasn't planning on it.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think I would have taken as many liberties as I possibly can with the wife by that time. So
sure. I think I'm actually driving my wife up just round the corner from your house to see her friend's new house, leaving her there, driving to salute, and then coming back to meet up with them in the evening. So I've and in fact 2 of her friends live near where you do, so I've got to do that bit. It makes the trip a little bit longer, but means I can go, so that's not a bad thing. So if I'll be at Salute, but if you ever see any of us at an event, because Warhammer Fest will be around the corner soon, won't it? You'll be up painting late before that, I'm sure. So,
yeah, I'm debating whether I'd get much done for that. I think I'm going to have a little bit of time off.
Yeah, too right. But we've got the t-shirts now and the hoodies, so I try and wear them at events where we can. Obviously, we can't wear them all the time because we've only got one each. So one of each. So if you see us, come and shout and say hi because it's always good to meet people. If you've got feedback, still feel free to send it in. Neil, we've had some issues with your email, haven't we? So still, if we go, Neil,
yes.
The easiest way to do it is Instagram, but the other places as well, at Neil Pates and at Child of Fang, pretty much everywhere for me, and Imperial_Truth on Twitter, and of course the Facebook page. We have still got people interested. The event in Cardiff. Let's do this the proper way. There are plenty of tickets left. Firestorm is a big venue. I haven't actually announced how many tickets there are for sale because I don't think I've fully agreed it with the venue. So I probably should just double check and get hold with them about exactly how much space we've got. But Firestorm is a very big venue. So feel free, if you are interested, to come to go and look at the events page or look at the website for the Imperial Truth. In the top right is the Reckoning of Dalen Prime. Go there, the pack's there. It tells you how to do everything, tells you how we're running everything. I think I said it last show, but next version of the pack will be up soon. Just doing some little bits of tweaks with it. But it means you can do that, book tickets, and then go and book hotels or what have you. Whatever you need to book can be done. And hopefully we're going to have a rocking time in Cardiff, playing some regular Heresy, some Centurion-ish, and some Zone Mortalis, and some Adeptus Titanicus as well. So I'm really looking forward to that event, actually, running it and hoping it goes well. But yeah, we've had sign-ups, but we've still got plenty of space. So if you are interested, come and jump on it. And of course, I know you've just listened to it, but all the CK Studio stuff, I'm going to try and make sure everything's in the show notes, so that if you don't know where to look, you can find it there. But if in doubt, CK Studios, put that into Facebook, and it will come up with all their information as well. We're going to try and do a little bit of recording, aren't we, on our trip?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun too.
This might not work. I don't know what equipment I can really take. A while ago, I did buy some stuff and it didn't work quite as the way I expected it to with everything else. I will try and dig some stuff out. Worst case scenario, we've recorded whole episodes of this on my phone before. So there is that option. Although I just don't know how much time we're going to have, whether we're going to have much like space to record in and everything else, and still have the sound, be legible or understandable, should I say. So we're going to try and do that. So fingers crossed. Next episode back will be we'll have a little bit of we'll talk Adepticon anyway, but hopefully we might have some like on-site reporting, as it were.
That'd be fun.
And I think
do a little like sound blog of like at the airport and then on the plane and then arriving in Chicago.
Yeah, getting arrested as we've got my phone out and going through customs. Yeah, yeah. We'll try and see what we can do. I think it'll be quite interesting to say. I've only been twice to Adepticon, but obviously Neil, it's your first time, so it could be interesting. And we're doing very different things through the weekend as well. Although I'm sure we will meet up and cross paths and what have you. We might be able to cover quite a bit, and we'll see. We'll see what we can do on that. So fingers crossed. And also, hopefully, shortly after we get back, we'll have the final interview in the interview series as well. Doesn't mean I won't get any more Black Library authors on at some point, but this little mini series, fingers crossed, we'll get the one that's been more awkward to get, but hopefully it'll be more relevant as we've had more information about the Siege of Terror come out as well. So again, thank you for feedback on that one. Had some really good feedback the last few episodes about various things, and it's always good to understand what you guys like as well as what you don't like, and it's always good to kind of get that reinforcement that something we think is good people do like, because you do sit here sometimes and you wonder if in your head if you're the only person who enjoys it. Don't know if you ever feel that, Neil, but
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Like we've just spoken for half an hour. I think that was good, and obviously we don't get it right every time, but we like to think we get it mostly right most of the time. But we shall see. I would like to say, if you have listened to the show, I meant to say at the start, the audio for CK wasn't quite as good. Hopefully, I've managed to clear it up a little bit in post, and through most of this, been quite tired. So again, if you stuck through it all, and there have been times when I've sounded a little bit not quite with it, I do apologise. But we wanted to get this episode out, and fingers crossed, it still sounds okay. But I think we're done. And on that note of being tired, I will go to bed. Neil will stay up painting till the early hours. Maybe he'll put something on Instagram. You never know.
Well, the problem is that nothing looks any different at the moment.
Nothing. But you need to get up and move around every now and then. Remember that, yeah. every 45 minutes or something. You need to stand up and stretch your back out and drink water. Like an athlete.
Yes, like the athlete that I am, by painting
absolutely.
athleticism.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the new way to view yourself. But I think we'll definitely leave that there. Unless there's anything you want to add, Neil.
Nothing else from me.
Awesome. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.